Hi, this is Regina Y. Favors with Pre-Singles Counseling. This is part of my Pre-Singles Counseling coaching curriculum where I design lessons and case studies based in the psychology literature on different topics. This Pre-Singles Counseling is targeted to three types of individuals. The first individual is a person who is interested in becoming single. That means that person is not necessarily interested in dating or entering the marriage market. The second individual is a single individual who is interested in entering the dating market. And then the last individual is a single dating individual who is interested in marriage. So take some time to listen to this lesson and or case study. Please leave a comment and I will reply. In addition, please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit the notification bell if you are interested in further topics. This is Pre-Singles Counseling, a Pre-Singles Counseling coaching curriculum. Thank you for visiting the channel. This lesson is subject to fair use, where I will comment, criticize, offer research, as well as teach and provide scholarship. By the end of this lesson, students will be able to do the following: outline 3 reasons for why a partner cannot compete with the partner of an ex, review mate value and mate switching, define 2 types of goal orientations, summarize the criteria for 3 types of disorders under the DSM, and then reflect on how dependent personality disorder applies to romantic relationships. And I'm making an argument with that. I'm not necessarily saying that it does, but you may be able to look at your own experiences in romantic relationship building and determine if part of the failure of that relationship has something to do with the person becoming very dependent upon you. So these are your learning objectives. Single women should be knowledgeable about competing viewpoints that might affect the continuation of an existing romantic relationship. One of the hardest struggles to reconcile is the presence of a physical baby and its potential impact on a current relationship. This makes competition almost inevitable. However, as this lecture argues, the baby is not always the actual baby. The baby is oftentimes the ex-partner and all his or her emotional struggles. Now that the ex-partner is no longer in relationship with your current partner, relationship building should be easier to attain. That is not always the case. The mother of your ex-partner's child may use their baby to interrupt relationship building between you and your partner, playing on his emotions. But the baby merely represents a power struggle in which the ex-partner is pulling your partner emotionally to return to their relationship. The baby is the woman. So here are some pre-discussion questions. Does your romantic partner have a baby? How often does the baby come between you and your romantic partner? Have you ever suspected that the romantic partner was merely using the baby as an excuse? Did you ever hold the baby when you visited the romantic partner? Do you need help? Do you need protection? Do you need saving? So these last 3 questions are questions that the ex-partner actually poses. And so we're going to get into the first part and then outline the 3 types of statements that an ex-partner would say to your partner. So pre-lecture note, this lecture is organized by offering 3 reasons, outlining why you cannot compete with the baby. So statement 1, the ex-partner will say, I was just trying to help you. And then I look at that as the baby is a narcissist, or the woman in this particular lecture. Statement number 2, I save you. The baby suffers from histrionic personality disorder. And then statement number 3, I'm protecting you. The baby may be suffering from dependent personality disorder. So the second part of the lecture is organized based on those three statements, but I'm going to give you an introduction now. So the baby is not the child your partner shares with the mistress. The baby is actually the woman. The baby is the woman. So when duty calls, and I thought about this word duty, because when my ex-partner would go back and forth with his I don't even know, ex-partner or maybe ex-partner, she would always make it about a duty to her. And I started to think about that. I started to look up the word, and I just thought it was very interesting that they are no longer together, according to the both of them, because I asked the both of them, but she believes that he still has a duty to her. A man's relationship to a manipulative ex-partner is one of duty. A woman will say to him that he has a duty to her and her alone. Even if the woman is married to someone else, the ex-partner believes that she is the only one that deserves honor, respect, some sort of deference and duty. And most oftentimes that's really connected to having a soul tie with someone. Is the more you try to pull away from that relationship, that old connection, emotional connection, the more the person tries to pull you back into that relationship. So when duty calls. The baby as the woman in terms of mate values. So you will often see many of my lectures focus on mate value, mate switching, mate poaching, etc. This means that for the married man, the ex-partner has a higher mate value. Attractiveness and access to high value mates are indicative of one's own mate value. So when you find someone going back and forth with an ex-partner, you almost have to assume that the person is a higher mate value than you. And you could be a high mate value to your partner as well, but something about that other partner, he has placed her on a pedestal. And when that happens, no matter what you do for your partner, he's always going to go back and forth with that person until he cuts it off, until he makes a decision that he can no longer go back and forth. Until that happens, you will always have the ex-partner be able to call him whenever he wants, whenever she wants, and he will go and perform his duty, whatever that duty is. The belief that the ex-partner can return at will suggests that she believes she has higher mate value than the married man she returns to for short-term relationship fulfillment. So she may be married to someone, or something about her ex-partner, who is now your partner, fulfills some kind of need for her. I don't know what that is. It could be sex, but it could also be, finances. It could also be emotional regulation, that she's using him to soothe her anxieties or something like that. Because when you go back and forth with someone, you are developing the habit. And even though you may be tired of it, they're not tired of it. And so the more you go back, the more you support that person's assumptions that you are the only one who can fulfill their needs. The desire to retain the ex-partner for whatever reason, even while married, becomes the larger vision than the desire to maintain peace in the current marriage. The manipulative ex-partner is changing the personality of the marriage between the married man and his wife. Disagreement enters the marriage environment. So, it's interesting how people will try to go back and forth into relationships, even when their ex-partner is now married. But I wonder, if you thought that you still had something with that ex-partner before he became an ex-partner, or if he was an ex-partner, the time between he was an ex-partner and then he turned around and married, someone else, why didn't you pursue agreement with him then? There's a scripture in the Bible, Amos 3:3, can two walk together unless they agree? And so if you felt like you needed to have that relationship, to go back to it, relationship build again, go to counseling or something like that, why wait until he gets married to now try to pursue that relationship? And I have an answer. People like to play certain types of games. They wait for you to come around and come and run after them, and they like to hold the reins of the relationship, but they never think that you are going to go on with your own business. There's a difference between men and women. Men might be distraught for a moment, but after a while they'll get up, cut their hair, shave, shower, and go out and try again. A woman will take a long time to get over a particular mate, and part of her taking a long time is not being honest with herself, that she really wants to be in relationship with the person, but he's not acting the way that she thinks he should act. And so then she begins to treat him like a child in the way that you would try to parent a child when that is a grown man. So now you want to go and mess in another person's relationship, let alone marriage, because you think that he still has a duty to you. But once he marries someone else, he no longer has a duty to you. So now there is disagreement, because even with the man, some things were not finished in the previous relationship, whether it had anything to do with him or her. And so now he feels some sort of obligation to go and repair that. But you can say the same thing to him as well. Once you have finished that relationship, once you are no longer together and you are now married to me, you have no business being in that relationship anymore. So the baby as a woman, agreeableness. So I talk about agreeableness, one of the big 5 personality traits. So personality traits tend to be scored on high or low dimensions. If a person scores high, then he or she is trusting, lenient, good natured, and acquiescent. If the person scores low, the person is ruthless, suspicious, antagonistic, and critical. So during that time that they were apart, the ex-partner and your partner, his ex and now your married partner, she scored low on agreeableness. She was not I don't know if she was ruthless or suspicious or antagonistic, but she was definitely critical, because all women tend to be critical. She was less acquiescent as well. So had she scored high, they might still be in relationship. And I'm honestly just assuming here, because if they're no longer in a relationship and she's trying to come in and out of your relationship, there is some kind of manipulation going on. I don't have to assume that. That is something that is common. People wait until the person gets married, and then all of a sudden they want them. And then they begin to, manipulate the relationship that you're in with that partner. Both partners in the marriage agreed to be married, took steps to be married, and worked through obstacles and struggles to maintain the marriage. This is agreement. These are 2 people who have come together. Even if you come to the relationship with baggage, you still come together before God, before the preacher, to agree to cleave to each other and be married. So anything apart from that is going to reflect some kind of disagreement if you give in. Agreeableness suggests that both partners were willing to work through the gender roles of marriage. However, when a manipulative ex-partner returns to take back her relationship with the married partner, the marriage is riddled with conflict and anxiety, like a body riddled with bullets. That's why I don't agree with becoming a mistress to a married man, or trying to date a married man, or the married man trying to date a single woman, because you reap what you sow. On some level, you reap what you sow. I'm not quite sure that I mean that to use that as a support for this particular part of the discussion. But the anxiety comes sometimes from something you might have done in your past. That's why it's very important not to come between people. You may not have ever come between a man and a woman, a husband and a wife, but you might have come between two friends. And now, years later, you are being affected by the same exact thing that you did before. And people call that karma. I don't believe in karma. I know it exists for some people, but I believe in the Bible. And the Bible says you reap what you sow. So whatever you sowed in years and years ago, it has its way of coming back as a weed in your life. It could come back as a good flower, or it could come back as a weed. And so that anxiety comes from somewhere. And that is up to you to decide what it reflects now in your relationship. So the baby as a woman, in terms of anxiety, so neuroticism is also another big 5 personality trait. So someone who scores high on the big 5 personality test is typically a person who is anxious, self-conscious, emotional, and vulnerable. If you score low, you tend to be calm, even-tempered, comfortable, and hardy. One of the reasons why the relationship might have failed between your partner and his ex-partner might have a lot to do with anxiety. Sometimes men tend to be more even-tempered, calm, and comfortable, right? They don't do a whole lot of just arguing unless you poke the bear. Whereas you might have wanted him to do something and to get you guys somewhere quicker, especially financially. But his, finances, he can't stretch his finances, longer than where he is. And so therefore you might have pushed him to do more for you on the financial front, because most women focus on that more than anything. Now, if it's a, sexual situation, men tend to not necessarily get tired, but they don't go as long as women, or as long as women want them to go. So that might have been an issue. Regardless, if there is a relationship failure, and there is, then that means that there was some sort of anxiety in that relationship that never got resolved. And the more you keep pulling at each other, even if you are respectively with other people, you're still trying to pull at each other to resolve that anxiety. And to me, the marriage to another person resolves that anxiety. You just have to deal with the post-relationship anxieties you might have, especially the depression, the blues, etc. Babies in general are often anxious for the bottle, for the mother's breast, for food, and for love. The manipulative ex-partner wants one or more of the above, but may use the need for money to maintain a connection to the man. A man who feels duty-bound will use money to support the needs of the ex-partner, even though he's not supposed to take any money out of the house to go and support his ex-partner. It's under the guise of maybe them having a child together. Child support is permitted because, that's by law, or by court decision rather. But you don't have any business giving more money, paying your ex-partner's rent, paying a car note, paying any other bill, because she's still an adult. And if she wanted the relationship to work and finances not split between two homes, then she would have done all that she could to try to make the relationship work. However, the money is not the answer. The manipulative ex-partner wants the same love, care, concern, and attention that the man gave her initially. It is like Superman flying up to the sun to regain energy to continue flying and fighting bad guys. The manipulative ex-partner's return to the man is predicated on refueling. So she probably left the relationship on a whim, on an ultimatum, anything like that. or she just decided to leave because, she thought she was high mate value, and and then by extension, he must not have been high mate value for her, because I don't think she would normally leave someone that she believes is high mate value. And so she decided to leave, and then she realized she wasn't getting what she needed to get from that new man. So therefore, she decided to come back to an ex-partner, using him basically as a rebound. But now he's married, and so she thinks she said certain people think they're like in a high school relationship versus two adults who are now with other partners, that you have to make adult decisions. So she coming back and forth like that is actually her way of refueling. So the baby as a woman, the marriage environment, the more the married man leaves the marriage environment to fulfill a duty to the manipulative ex-partner, the more vulnerable the marriage becomes. The influence of the manipulative ex-partner is changing the marriage environment from routine and steadiness to unpredictability and negligence. The married man would neglect his duty to his wife, and the woman to the husband. The manipulative ex-partner receives her duty. So whenever you have external influences, they always affect the internal environment or nature of a relationship. But when you think about somebody being robbed or something happening in the house, you have to open the door for that person to come in somewhere. Maybe on the day that he's robbing you, you didn't open that door, but somewhere prior to that, you let him in or you let her in some kind of way. I don't always believe that it's a good idea to have your best female friend come to your house with you and your husband, unless she's married. But even then, I don't really need another woman in the house. We can meet somewhere. I can come to your house, but you shouldn't be at my house all the time. You shouldn't live with us because you are a single woman. And if you let a single woman come into your house while you are with a married man, and people say, well, you just got to trust your husband, or you're too insecure. You can have a good group of friends, male and female. Your husband can have a group of male friends, and you can have a group of female friends. And the majority of them won't do anything. They won't cross the line. They will behave as an adult, or etc. But there is always one from each group who would try something. And it's always connected to when they are not doing well in their relationship, rebuilding lives, right? Whatever's going on, they might have just broken up with somebody, and so therefore they come to your house. You're not home, but your husband is home, and y'all and your friend and your husband are having a talk, right? And men on some level want to kind of encourage, support, borderline nurture that woman back, because men don't like to see a woman cry. And so they're thinking about all the different ways they can help that woman get back to her stasis. But the woman knows better than to come over there and cry in front of a man. And eventually it turns into, something else. And it's always behind your back. And it's kind of like your friend will begin to think that your husband has a duty to her to make her feel better, when she needs to learn how to regulate her own emotions apart from using your man to do so, or even using you. After a while, I am just not going to sit there and hold your hand forever. On some level, you're going to have to get yourself together and go get some counseling, go read some books, go do some exercising, do whatever you need to do to get yourself back to a place where you are not emotionally turned around. You cannot always reach out to people all the time and pull them and clutch on them and hang on them and be dependent upon them emotionally. You got to work out your own life. So if you are having trouble within the internal environment of your marriage, it is likely that you invited that trouble. It could have been 2 years prior, or it could have been a day prior. Regardless, we let people in. We it's like those movies about the robbery or the bank robbery being an inside job. You always have to connect to somebody inside to know how to scout uh, the ins and outs of the bank, where the buttons are, right? Where the codes are, where's the safe, etc. The baby as a woman in terms of intent. So the manipulative ex-partner and the married man do not share the same intent. Intent might lead the married man to commit infidelity. The married man might feel compelled to add to the duty some comfort through sex, even if the married man is in a good marriage. And I've once heard a person say, I think he's like a life coach, but his name is Tony Gaskins. He said, even a good man can do you dirty. So in this regard, I'm not saying that the man is seeking out your friend to have sex with her. He just sees her crying and he wants to comfort her. And love for men is between the legs of a woman, whereas love for a woman is a hug on his neck, or his hug on her, right? Him hugging her. So the legs are hugging him. He finds that as love. Him hugging her, she finds that as love. However, lack of sustained conscientiousness towards the marriage and daily living might propel a married man to seek sexual satisfaction with a manipulative ex-partner, but not necessarily relationship termination with the wife. So, we all understand now that rebounding is a type of short-term mating strategy. And so rebounders oftentimes will adopt a short-term mating strategy to fulfill some kind of need, but they won't change their long-term partner preferences. So the wife is still a long-term partner preference, but based on this situation, he is changing that for a minute just to have sex with somebody else. And conscientiousness is needed in a marriage. There's no way in the world that you can get through a marriage without a consistent focus on the marriage. That once you decide to step in and out of the marriage, you lose your focus. And when you lose your focus, you open up all different types of doors that can now come in. And the worst thing for a man, he doesn't want his wife to go out and go have sex with somebody, even if it's in retaliation. But it's okay for him to go out and do it. So conscientiousness is also another big five personality trait. So a person who scores high tends to be hardworking, well organized, punctual, ambitious, and persevering. Then a person who scores low tends to be lazy, disorganized, late, aimless, and quitting. Nothing worse than being a person without aim. It's important to have follow through in life, that if you start something, you need to endure all of the positives and the negatives in between, and then you end and complete. Don't set goals you can't complete. But do set goals so you can complete them, so you can have a sense of accomplishment. The only way that you end a marriage or complete a marriage is when one of you dies. Divorce is not really completing the marriage. Those are not the marital vows that you took to have and to hold unless we divorce. No, it's to have and to hold to death do us part. And that's actually how you complete a marriage. And so, it's interesting. You can be conscientious in one part of your life, like at your job, at your work, or anything that you're doing, but not be conscientious in marriage when you are living together and sleeping with someone and carrying out life and sharing, finances, etc. It's very interesting how we can be lazy in one area and not hardworking in another. Hardworking in another. Just kind of interesting. So the baby as a woman, in terms of laziness, it is the manipulative ex-partner who lacks ambition. She is aimless, lazy, and negligent. The intent for her is to fill a void for the day, the month, for an hour, for a few months, or simply for a moment. To the manipulative ex-partner, sex with the married man is not infidelity, it is a goal. So, because she's not really setting a life plan to get back with the ex-partner. That's not what this is. He might think it is on some level, but that's not what she's trying to do. She's just trying to fulfill a goal in that month, or she's just trying to fulfill a goal in that hour. Immediately she feels a need for something. She feels a hankering for something. Instead of going to go get some food, she goes and get her needs fed. And she's one of those people who is just not, because when you are ambitious, you tend to not let a lot of stuff plague your life, because you worry about not being able to attain the thing that you, just because somebody has a lot of money and they have a lot of clout doesn't necessarily mean that they were ambitious. They just could have had access to an inheritance. They could have had other people do the job for them. But I think people who enter scandals, who get scandals, I honestly believe these are people who did not necessarily have ambition. They just wanted to be rich, or they just wanted people to know them, or they just wanted to be famous or something like that. Because if you put in all that work to do something, why are you tearing down your own house? Why are you burning down your own house? I don't think you really wanted that, or at least you didn't want the responsibility that came with the ambition. You only wanted the ambition itself. You didn't want all of the step by step, year by year, work hard, fail, go through a lot of different things, come back up, pull yourself up, things like that. You didn't want all of that. And because I just don't think if you have worked so hard to get somewhere that you're going to get a scandal, have a scandal like that, or let a scandal enter your life. You do something to create the scandal and let that just completely tear your whole reputation down, tear everything down that you built. So that means some people are really not as conscientious as it seems like they are. Because if the thing you're doing is something you're supposed to do, you shouldn't end up in jail. You shouldn't end up in prison. I think about the Enron scandal and all those people who were the executives, and they were defrauding their investors as well as the government. And many of them went to Harvard. They went to these Ivy League institutions and everything. But then they did that and they ended up dying, right, because of the stress of it, or they ended up going to prison. So was that something you were supposed to do, or did you just push yourself in order to do something like that? It's like a minister once said, there are some people that God called to do something, and then there are some people who just call themselves. And even though we're not actually in a church, you can look at this from a business standpoint, from a corporate America standpoint, that you got a lot of people who are advanced through the ranks, but they don't really have the character to keep the job, or the integrity, or the work ethic. They haven't built the work ethic. They probably had a great sale or something like that, and a supervisor or manager, recognized them for their sales ability and then decided to move them up. But Could that person sustain those sales for more than that moment? I think like you should look at them in terms of a 2 to 5 year period. Can they sustain that and advance in terms of not just selling and breaking even, but actually bringing in profit for the company? You shouldn't just advance someone, promote someone just because they made a major sale. They need to do that consistently. Can they do that consistently? And I don't think you know that until they get to the highest level and you find them not performing. Well, they haven't been performing. They likely have been relying on someone else's uh, performance and then framing it as their own. So when you see this manipulative ex-partner who lacks ambition, she might have some good progress in other parts of her life, but not in romance. But if you're dipping in and out of other people's relationships and things like that, there is something that is missing that you don't quite that you I don't know. I think about that NASA astronaut who was married and then dating a married man, I think, and then that man got divorced, and then he was dating somebody else, and she was a NASA astronaut, very proficient in her field, expert, advanced level, highly smart, um, but somehow she managed to just really tear down her whole reputation. She got in the car. She was wearing a diaper. She had tape, rope, or whatever, and she drove all the way to another city and state just to capture that woman that her partner was interested in and that he's now married to. She was missing something. Either she had ambition and she had no real social skills, or she didn't really truly have ambition. Sometimes some people are just very good at something. They just tend to be very good at something, but they don't have the real work ethic to keep it going, because why would you tank your whole career, all that work? Trying to get on with NASA is no easy task, and then becoming a NASA astronaut too. Some people are just very, book smart. I don't think they always have ambition just because they become a NASA astronaut. I think they want that because it gives them a status. But if you had a real, true, intrinsic motivation towards it, to keep it, I don't think you would tear down your house. So the baby as a woman goal orientation. So the manipulative ex-partner's goal is to experience a romantic relationship, but not necessarily be in one or be responsible for one. There are 2 types of goal orientations, and I always bring these 2 types into all of my lectures. Now, remember that goal orientations really refer to academic learning, but the way we sort of navigate life, I think, has a lot to do with the types of goal orientations we adopt. So you have learning goal orientation, and then you have performance goal orientation. So LGO, in a learning goal orientation, students are often measured on their beliefs that abilities can be developed. It refers to a mastery orientation. A person with a learning goal orientation is willing to develop, to do the work. So if you look at the relationship that your partner has with his ex-partner, at some point in their relationship, they either stopped learning or they never adopted a learning goal. See, a lot of times we get into these relationships through sex first. We don't have the conversations. We don't think beyond that minute of sexual satisfaction. We just need to be sure that we cover ourselves in a certain kind of way. And the more you do that and have sex with each other, the less you are talking and conversing about who you are as two different people. And you're missing the learning part of the relationship building. That's why courting is really important. I never understood just how important it was until the relationship failures I have experienced. And it isn't until after researching these issues and these topics, especially on rebounding, that I just really find how important it is. And then, of course, I'm a teacher. I teach college English, so this is part of my vocabulary as well. In a performance goal orientation, it reflects the general belief that abilities are fixed and cannot be changed. People with a strong PGO tend to see failure as a weakness and stress the importance of short-term performance results. This is why I think people oftentimes go and get mistresses, side chicks, form dating rotations, rebounds, right? Because they're looking for the easy win. They're looking and they are using short-term performance results for an easy win. That's why you might see somebody in an academic context focus on the 100 that they got on the quiz versus focus on developing a work ethic to learn the material for learning's sake. Because when you are trying to take a quiz or a test, you're basically cramming all that information into your head and you try to remember it, right? And so then you perform, and then you have success because you got 100 on the test, and now you feel like you are a great learner. But that's all recall, that's all cramming, that's not actually true learning. It may be a part of the process, but it's not the process. Sitting down, reading, taking notes, learning, videotaping, video recording yourself talk about it, write about it, and testing too. That's what is more important. Those things are more important. That's what a learning goal orientation is versus a performance goal orientation. And people, because they don't like to wait, they're very impatient. They want the immediate gratification. They oftentimes do not learn because they favor the short-term performance of their decisions. So in terms of goal orientation, I thought about this based upon the definitions of each term. And so I looked at this and I said to myself, okay, what would marriage partners do? What would a manipulative ex-partner do? So for the marriage partners, these are hardworking people. They believe in relationship. They work on resolving problems. They believe in growth and personal and relationship development. And this is when they're conscientious about it. They are, focused about it. This is not always the case with everyone who gets into a marriage. Some people really do hop into marriage in the same way they hop into relationships. Then they realize that they are now in a marriage. Then a manipulative ex-partner, this is a lazy individual. She does not work. She neglects relationships of all kinds. She jumps from one problem to the next. She has stopped somewhere in her lifespan development, maybe because of pain. So the way that she is manipulating your partner has a lot to do with the way that she might have been manipulated, or that she saw someone being manipulated, meaning that you do what you know. You always do what you know. She might have seen her mother pull at her father in the same way. Her mother might have pulled at her in the same way. But regardless, you always do what you know. So the primary goal of the baby as the woman, the primary goal of the manipulative ex-partner is to resolve an immediate need, which is boredom. Coming back into the married man's life to obtain fulfillment is the goal. She will switch her mating strategy when the benefits of obtaining services outweigh the costs of not pursuing the goal. So once she sets it in her head that she's going to call your husband and ask him for money, she has to fulfill that goal. She has to see it all the way through, even if she has to keep calling and letting the phone ring. She might even get bold enough to come to the house. Either way, she has to do it because that becomes her goal. A lot of times it's she may be sexually bored, or she just may be a person who is chaos driven and needs the excitement of the ex-partner's wife having a problem with her calling your husband, right? People like that kind of thing. They like driving off to somewhere and getting all out of the car and knocking on the door and cussing somebody out. They like all of that. Versus if she needed money or if she was just bored, she has multiple resources at her fingertips. Why does she need to call your husband to fulfill her life goals? Mate switching. So when an ex-partner comes back into the married man's life, there's usually mate switching. Whoever she is with has lost his value, or he no longer considers her high value, and therefore has stopped providing the financial benefits. So she probably left your husband to go with someone else who was high value and had money. And so now that she has been discarded, she's coming back to your husband. He has begun to inflict costs such as withdrawal of financial support, spreading false rumors, and then disclosing personal information. So if her partner was who is now her ex-partner was high value, he definitely had the financial resources to withdraw any financial support, maybe not even marry her. So see, that's another thing. She left your husband to go with someone else who she thought was going to marry her, but come to find out he was just using her. So now she's trying to come back and get you to trying to get your husband to mate switch, abandon you, and then come back to her. She's not going to keep him. She's just going to keep him at arm's length just so she can find another person. And then once she finds another person, she's going to discard your husband. But by that time, you might have divorced your husband. And now he's your ex-husband. The manipulative ex-partner is wounded. She has lost mate value. She has lost social position. She has lost economic investment. So when she's coming at your husband or your long-term partner, she's coming from a deep-seated, wounded place. So then she's going to go all for broke, period. She's going to attack your marriage. She's going to seduce him. She's going to lure him. She's going to do all that she can to try to take him away from you. It becomes necessary to mate switch to boost her ego. However, the return to the married man is essentially dating down, because she already looked at your husband as someone that she could leave. So that means if she felt like she could leave him, she felt like he had no real value. As a married man, he has lost his value because resources go to the wife and the marriage environment. The manipulative ex-partner will use the married man as a rebound. When you date down is an example of someone changing relationship partner characteristics. Peers suggest that one of the most effective ways of repairing self-esteem is to prove oneself worthy and capable of successfully obtaining a new partner. This means that engaging in a rebound relationship shortly after a relationship termination is an obvious strategy for resolving anxiety and preventing depression. So she's now down. The man that she left your husband for no longer wants her. and she's depressed, she's down, she's now, instead of, self-reflecting on their decision, she's looking for something, almost like an octopus. um, the octopus spreads its legs, to see who it can pull at quickly, because she's looking for an ego boost. This man that she thought was worthy of leaving your husband for is actually no longer worthy enough for him to keep her. And so she's now rebounding in the same way that if there were two single partners and one partner, um, or both partners decided to break up, or one of the partners decided to break up, the one who is involuntarily broken from the relationship is the one who goes and looks for a rebound, because he's looking for an ego boost. And most men are the ones who tend to seek a rebound quicker than women, and the psychology research supports that notion. A rebound relationship is an example of dating down. Following a breakup, people would change their mating criteria by lowering their standards to pursue a short-term strategy. This means that they would change their desired partner characteristics, which are actually long-term partner characteristics, but not their their desired partner characteristics, which actually represent some sort of short-term situation that they're going to get themselves into, but not their long-term partner preferences. So some people may rebound, but they still want to marry. What this means is that people will enter a rebound relationship to meet immediate, short-term relational needs, but they will not change partner preferences for marriage or other long-term relationship. It is more costly for the manipulative ex-partner to depend on the married man, because she knows that she is dating down and she knows that he is anxious. The married man is not settled on the idea of mate switching. Because the married man is not committed to leaving the wife, defecting completely from the relationship, the mate value of the wife is higher than that of the manipulative ex-partner. Now, sometimes the wife might fulfill long-term partner preferences, but may not necessarily have high mate value like a 10. But she will suffer some value in order to marry. And so now that he has begun investing into that relationship with his wife, he's not apt to just leave it. He's not hasty enough to leave it. But like most people, they step in and they step out of the relationship. They try to create this open relationship where they think is okay, and they try to get the wife to co-sign. But it's still all cheating. It's still all infidelity. It is still all adultery. To prevent relational dissolution with his wife, the married man will inflict costs to the marriage environment, such as promising to withhold financial support if she divorces, or performing more benefit provisioning mate retention behaviors, which are defined as material resources and compliments. So what happens when there is the potential for mate switching? The man will, in this case, with a married couple and the man's ex-partner, the husband's ex-partner, he will slowly, gradually start putting money into that ex-partner's house, but you don't have enough money to go around. So what happens is he will all of a sudden say there are money issues in the current house that he's in with his wife. And so he'll likely say, we need to tighten the budget, or we need to hold back on spending too much money. All of a sudden he'll become stingy and thrifty, whereas he's buying the other woman, who is now really a mistress, buying her cars, paying for the apartment or house she's living in, keeping her decked out, because on some level, even though he's married, he thinks on something, he almost thinks that the mistress the ex-partner is actually his true partner, even if he knows that is not true on a true level. But people get into nostalgia, they get into all types of thinking about what ifs, and it's like the wife is now intruding on what could have been with him and his ex-partner. So he will withhold financial support. He might even stop having sex instead of performing more benefit provisioning mate retention with the wife. He would use, benefit provisioning with the ex-partner who is now a mistress to keep her. So he's going to send all of his material resources and compliments. It's almost like he's sending money ahead to prepare for when he might have to return to her house versus keeping the money within the marriage itself. It is the age-old strategies of married men accused of cheating, buying flowers and jewelry and promising never to do it again, but not before blaming the wife for him cheating with an ex-partner. Buying flowers, providing material resources, and providing social and emotional benefit entices a woman to stay. This is an example of mate retention behavior. This increases the mate value of the man or partner who provides the benefit provisioning. So if he is providing for both homes, it's like he thinks his mate value is high enough in order to do that. Even if it's wrong, he's sitting up here married with someone else and trying to provide money to an ex-partner who broke up with him, because he didn't give her enough money and he got with somebody else. So now she wants to come back, and he's going to send all of his resources to make sure she's covered versus keep all of his resources to make sure his wife is covered. However, using manipulation, intimidation, and possessiveness are forms of cost-inflicting behaviors. Reliance on these mate retention behaviors might result in retaliation by the partner's family, social stigmatization. Cost-inflicting behaviors are costly to the man and lowers his mate value. So eventually, the more that he uses cost-inflicting behaviors with the wife in favor of the ex-partner, is going to continue to lower his mate value. He might look good in front of the ex-partner, but he's going to look worse in front of his wife. And then there's going to have to be some kind of consideration about whether or not to stay in the marriage. So no loyalties. The manipulative ex-partner is an individual without loyalty to any mate, regardless of mate value. Because her mate value is dependent on fulfilling a momentary need, she can be less restricted. She doesn't need the realities of relationship. Unrestricted individuals require less time in relationships before having sex and are more comfortable engaging in sex without love or commitment. Usually, what she will likely do, the mistress, the ex-partner, is give him sex. Give that husband sex, right? To pull him in, to hook him. But then she will likely resist and hold back and act like she's in a courtship with a married man. The manipulative ex-partner is not looking for commitment. She is only discriminating when it comes to the partner who can provide the most benefit provisioning, but without mate retention. At the end of fulfillment, she will return to the partner she considers higher in value than the married man she used to date, if he would take her back. So eventually that partner who abandoned her will probably try to come back again on some level. And it's usually for sex or, something like that. She'll try to come back again. But he'll try to come back again. But the ex-partner is not looking for commitment with your husband. It's just the person just wants to get her needs met or something like that for the time being. And those needs are always financial. But she's going to take those financial resources, fix herself up, and go scouting for another man. So the baby as a woman becoming irreplaceable. So if the man with higher value than the married man takes her back, the manipulative ex-partner will make herself irreplaceable to the man of higher value. She can be trusted. Trust provides psychological assurance for the partner of higher value. The woman is counting on repairing trust. So while she is having sex with your husband, cultivating a false relationship with your husband, and your husband is increasingly leaving the relationship, she's really trying to repair her relationship with the man who kicked her out, who no longer wants to provide for her financially. So then her goal changes. Even she still sustains the goal of no commitment with your husband, but she is now trying to prove herself worthy to the man who kicked her out. So that means she needs to build trust, and the way that she would do that is she would present the idea that she's not after his money. She would go find a job. She would pay her on her own bills, and it's really your husband paying her bills, to make it seem like she has a job. But she will do all that she can to make herself irreplaceable. She might even tell that man who kicked her out that an ex is coming around and he looks like he may want to marry me, that type of thing. And men like to compete. So even if he doesn't want her, he will compete for her, only to kick her out again, of course. But this becomes her new goal, to make herself irreplaceable, to show that partner who kicked her out, that she can be trusted. All the while, she's still pulling at your husband. She's not trying to prove anything to him because she feels like she got him. She feels like he has a duty to her anyway, and that he needs to be glad that she's in his life. And so he will stay on the hook, not knowing the full picture, not introduced to the full picture, while she's trying to bait the man who kicked her out. So returning the married man. So once she feels like she has gotten back with the other man who discarded her, then she can go ahead and return your married man. Go ahead and return your husband back to you. She will not make herself irreplaceable to the married man she returns to because she believes he owes her a duty. Instead, the manipulative ex-partner will return the married partner back to his wife until another time when she is bored or the partner with higher value kicks her out again. But for the moment, she's not going to let your husband get in the way of her getting back with the man who kicked her out. She's going to do all that she can. So even if she has to let go of your husband for a time, change her number, prevent him from coming to the house, stop all sexual activity, everything. If she has to do that to keep that higher value man, she's going to do it. So your husband, as long as your husband or long-term partner continues to entertain the ex-partner who comes in and out of his life, you cannot compete with the duty he feels to that woman. He will go behind your back and do whatever necessary to fulfill her short-term needs, which are usually sexually, emotionally, psychologically, financially. You are more likely to develop a healthier relationship with the baby they had than with the husband you have if he continues to defect from the current marriage environment. So it's interesting. I say that the baby is the woman, and they actually may have a child together, but if you look at this whole discussion up until this slide, we did not talk about a baby. We talked about the baby as the woman. So the baby they actually have, the physical baby that they actually have, there's no mention of that baby, because it's never truly, when it comes to A manipulative ex-partner is never really about that baby. It is always about the woman and her needs. And so as long as he continues to, defect from the relationship that he has with you or his wife, because out of some kind of duty, then you will never have a stable relationship with your own husband. So here are the sample statements I mentioned earlier from the ex-partner to the married man. And I took some time to look at the DSM, and I'm just kind of arguing these points hypothetically. I'm not saying this because I do not have a clinical psychology license. I'm just a graduate student, and I've taken off time from graduate school. I have 2 classes left, so I can rest and build a digital portfolio. I am going to return. But I thought to myself, I wonder if these statements that many ex-partners make might have some relationship to what the DSM suggests. So I want to look at the statements and then apply what I think based upon what the person is saying to your ex-partner, to your husband, what the person might be suggesting. So sample statements from the ex-partner to the married man, and remember the word, the concept of duty, that the ex-partner always feels that their ex-partner has a duty to him or her while he is married to you. So I just want to make sure that I give you a disclaimer. So the following exploration of personality disorders are suggested diagnoses based upon the criteria in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. Please be advised that I am not a licensed clinical psychologist or a licensed practicing counselor. I am a graduate student in psychology with a generalist concentration at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. Seek the professional services of a counselor for clinical diagnoses. This discussion is intended to suggest that when an ex-partner attempts to regain rights to a previous relationship, he or she may exhibit certain personality traits that fall under the DSM. And again, I'm just arguing these points. I haven't proven anything. I'm just hypothetically theorizing. So statement number 1, I was just trying to help you. So the baby is a narcissist. So for narcissistic personality disorder, narcissism is a personality disorder. It begins in early adulthood. 50 to 75% of males are typically diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. Narcissistic personality disorder is comorbid with histrionic, borderline, antisocial, paranoid personality disorders. And I'll discuss histrionic later. So the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders defines narcissistic personality disorder as an individual exhibiting a pervasive pattern of grandiosity, a need for admiration, a lack of empathy, and fulfilling at least 5 of the diagnostic criteria. So here is the criteria. So grandiose sense of self-importance with exaggerated achievements and talents, preoccupation with fantasies of unlimited success, power, and brilliance, belief that he or she is special and unique and only associates with high-status people, requirement of excessive admiration, sense of entitlement accompanied with unreasonable expectations, require automatic compliance, exploits interpersonal relationships, taking advantage of others, lacks empathy, envious of others, and believes others are envious of him or her, and will display arrogance and haughtiness. So if you think about the previous discussion, you will see that the ex-partner thinks that she is much more important than the current wife. She might be on a power trip. She believes that she is much more special and unique, and that is especially when she is connected to a higher status person. So she will continue to pull at and drop your husband for another high status person. She needs the admiration. I think that's where the duty comes from. She has unreasonable expectations. So one of these expectations that I believe is unreasonable, that somebody's husband is still her man. And it could be anybody. Somebody's husband is still her man. And so because she believes that, he still needs to perform a duty to her and comply. She takes advantage. She has no empathy for the wife who has all the rights in the marriage. But the ex-partner wants to become or act like a wife and get all of the advantages and resources that come with being a wife. So therefore she's envious, and she's of course arrogant and haughty. Individuals with narcissistic personality disorder essentially believe that they are superior to others and beyond the needs of ordinary people. Individuals with narcissistic personality disorder insist on the top doctors, lawyers, instructors, but will also devalue their credentials if they disappoint them. Individuals with narcissistic personality disorder expect to be greeted with great fanfare and given what they feel they need, regardless of what it means to others. I think the second bullet point is kind of interesting because they want the top doctors, but then if the top doctor doesn't give them what they want, all of a sudden where did you go to school? And he's not a real doctor. He's I don't even think that's his specialty. They begin to devalue their credentials, even if they went to the best schools, Ivy League or whatever. If you disappoint them, you are basically nothing. Individuals with narcissistic personality disorder are envious of others and believe others are envious of them. They may begrudge others their successes or possessions, feeling that they better deserve those achievements, admiration, or privileges. This means that they will create inflated judgments of their own accomplishments and devalue the contributions of others. For this situation with the married man and his ex-partner, she may be envious of the wife. But when it comes to begrudging others of their successes, it just depends on what that husband is doing. Is he trying to reach something? Is he the one with actually true ambition? Whereas the ex-partner looks like she's ambitious and it seems like she's ambitious, but she's really not ambitious. And when you get people who come from your past, they begin to hinder your progress in some area of your life. Not only is she hindering the progress of the relationship building between the husband and his new wife, but she's hindering him when it comes to his work as well, whatever that work is. She is more important than anything that he's doing. It does not matter. So that means the judgment that she affords herself as being a lot better than not only the wife, but even his own life is much more important. So she would devalue any kind of contribution that he makes to his wife, that he makes even to her, and that he makes overall to his own life. When the baby says, "I was just trying to help you," when the baby says, "I was just trying to help you," is indicative of the suggestion that you cannot help yourself. The implication is that the manipulative ex-partner, the baby, believes that the married man is in a marriage that he does not want to be in, and that it is her job to swoop in and take him away from his troubles. It's the old mate switching, mate poaching when you feel like the person, you have two people in a club, and one is a high value partner and the other is not. Well, another high value partner who is looking from afar will say, well, what is she doing with him? Or what is she doing with her? And so then their goal becomes to now mate poach, to take you away from that low value partner. That's what is implied here. I was just trying to help you. I thought you didn't want to be in that relationship. I thought you've always wanted to be with me. Well, he's married to the woman. So how is it that he doesn't want to be in a relationship with his wife? But the manipulative ex-partner doesn't see it that way. She only sees it in the way that she wants to see it, so she can get whatever it is that she's trying to get out of her ex-partner. However, this is what she expects him to do: leave his wife for a time to meet her needs. So she's not going to stay with him. She's never going to stay with him. Let me say that again. She's never going to stay with him. She's just going to dip in and dip out for a time to meet certain kind of needs. When the baby says, I was trying to help you, this is a temporary argument. So what the manipulative ex-partner is suggesting is that there is no guarantee that I will help you long or forever. I'm only here for a while. If you do not jump on this opportunity that I'm providing you, all will be lost. I only came back to help you. You know you don't want that woman. I'm the woman for you. I'm higher value. You are who you are today, the good man you are to her because of me. I made you. So this is the argument that she's putting forward that's going to engender so many different types of emotions. And this can all be summed up under the word under duty. Because she's basically saying, I was just trying to help you. I thought you didn't want to be with her. It seemed like you don't want to be with her. Because then she has a point. Why did you answer the phone from an ex-partner? Well, you say, well, she has my child. Okay. So then why go and have sex with her then? Because if you're sitting up here having sex with your ex-partner, somewhere in your brain, you don't want to be with your current wife. So then she will pick up on that and say, okay, well, if you don't want to be with her, I'm here for you. Let's get back together. So she's basically saying, I was just trying to help you. She's saying that you are only good to her because I'm the one who helped you to be good to her. You know, it's kind of like the situation that I saw in a HBO show, Insecure. And Issa was at a table on Thanksgiving last season, I think season 5, with her brother. And they went to like a Mexican restaurant. And she gets into a conversation with her brother about her relationship with Lawrence, and that now he's in relationship with someone else. And she realizes that Lawrence is treating the new woman much better than how he treated her, how he treated Issa. And Issa makes a good point that just really gained so much fanfare and commenting on social media, that she dated the man with the potential, and that all the good things that she invested into him, the new woman is reaping the rewards. So when you think about the manipulative ex-partner, she's basically saying, I did all of that investing, even if she's not the type of person who does a lot of investing in anybody. But she's saying, I did all of the investing. You're only good to her, and you only married her because of me. But I believe that if the man is going back and forth like that, he probably wanted to marry the ex-partner, but she didn't want to marry him. So this is a false argument that she's putting forth, because if she really wanted to be with him, all that time he was alone with nobody, not dating anybody, why didn't she pursue? Why didn't she pursue reconciliation with the man that she claimed she made? So how to resolve when the baby says, I was just trying to help you? Recognize that the baby, the manipulative ex-partner coming back into your life, is temporary. She plays the hokey pokey game. She has one foot in and one foot out. She never intends on staying. As soon as the one she really wants, uh, when he decides to take her back, she will return to the married. She will return the married man back to his wife. But the belief that the married man has a duty to her will still exist until he says it doesn't. So until your husband makes a decision and say, I'm only here to take care of the child. I'm only going to send money to take care of the child. I'm not here to have conversations with you. I'm not here to console you. I'm not here to give you sex. You are not my wife. Until he says that, it's just going to continue. So, statement number 2, I save you. So, the baby suffers from histrionic personality disorder. So, histrionic personality disorder is characterized by excessive emotionality and attention seeking. It begins in early adulthood. Histrionic personality disorder is typically diagnosed more in females. Histrionic personality disorder is typically comorbid with borderline, narcissistic, antisocial, and dependent personality disorder. So when the term comorbid, and I don't think I explained it in the previous section, it usually means that it is associated with that. Usually if we see that you have histrionic, we could test and determine if you have also antisocial or dependent personality, disorders. Oftentimes, if you have a substance abuse, it's usually comorbid with a mental disorder as well, or it could be the reverse. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders defines histrionic personality disorder as the pervasive pattern of excessive emotionality and attention seeking. Individuals are often lively and dramatic by drawing attention to themselves. So they usually fulfill 5 or more of the following criterion. Criteria: uncomfortable in situations where he or she is not the center of attention. Interaction with others as inappropriately seductive or provocative. They display rapidly shifting emotions. Style of speech is impressionistic and lacking in detail. They show self-dramatization and exaggerated expression of emotion. And they consider relationships to be more intimate than they really are. So the relationship that your husband is having with the ex-partner is much more exaggerated than it really is. Because if your husband was the one for his ex-partner, again, they will be together. You don't need a bunch of games if you're really supposed to be together. What happens is she needs to bait and hook him enough and long enough, so she's going to use exaggerated expressions. She's going to um, have rapidly shifting emotions to the point that even their relationship is not even stable. And so she got to be the center of attention. And you can likely find something like that in their childhood, that they had to be the center of attention, or it's possible that she didn't have it in her childhood. A lot of times people who were isolated as children and then they find their voice, they tend to overtalk people. I'm like that. When I was isolated, then it created me, then it formed in me a loner personality. And so when I got to college, when I got to meeting people and being more social, I tended to talk more. And then when I got into individual conversations with people, I recognized that I was over talking them. And then that's when I thought to myself, I needed to change, because I don't want to disrespect someone. I was never a person who needed to be the center of attention, but because I was not the center of attention in my home life, in the family dynamic, it seemed like that's what I was doing when I was among maybe like a group. I would probably joke a little bit just to get everybody to laugh, because there was some insecurity there that I didn't necessarily feel secure enough just to be. But then in some circles, I would just withdraw and sit back and be reserved. So that goes a lot to just, childhood, not fully resolving those issues. So choosing a second master's in psychology, I initially thought that I was just going to use it for the academic context, but I found out that it was actually much more informative about relationships, especially personality. Individuals with histrionic personality disorder often act out victim, princess, and life of the party types of roles in their relationships with others. Individuals with histrionic personality disorder are overly concerned with impressing others through physical appearance, dress, and personal grooming. Individuals with histrionic personality disorder offer strong opinions with dramatic flair, but their statements are vague and do not offer supporting details and facts. So I was never a person. I was not necessarily the life of the party, and I'm definitely not a princess. I might have housed some victim mentality in the past. I don't now. But I was never concerned with physical appearance, dress, and personal grooming, and to the extent of being over exaggerated. That's why you have a lot of people who tend to pursue plastic surgery, right? Because they tend to want to look a certain way. However way they see themselves in the mirror is not the same way they see themselves internally. And then thinking about their very strong opinions, they don't back up those opinions with support. And that's important. That's why a lot of times if you spend time in relationships with people, you will learn a whole lot more than you realize. That's why you need to converse with folks before you actually do anything else. Individuals with histrionic personality disorder may seek to control their partner through emotional manipulation or seductiveness on one level, while displaying a marked dependency on them at another level. So in the case of the ex-partner, she needs your husband for financial resources. There's nothing in her that says she needs to just go get a job. There's nothing in her that says that she needs to try to work out her own, financial problems. Everybody has a setback. All of us have had to borrow money or something like that. But you should not see a person who continually asking you for money, right? Something is going on in that situation. Individuals with histrionic personality disorder often become bored in their personal relationships because they crave novelty, excitement, and stimulation. That's why I say she will keep going back and forth between your husband and the partner who discarded her, because it creates chaos. And she's bored with her own life, meaning that she doesn't have anything that she can cling to and try to work out, meaning that she doesn't have any sort of goal or project or something. It helps when you have something that you're working on. Even if you are working in your garden, if you're working on a script, if you're working on a book, if you're working on a goal of losing weight, whatever it is, it's important that you have something. But this type of woman will always crave the novelty of relationships. That's why you see so many people married 5, 6, 7 times. How in the world do you get married 5, 6, 7 times? Somewhere you should have stopped at 3. That 3 should have embarrassed you. 3 should have got you to a point where I feel ashamed that I had to go through 3. But you steamrolled past 3 and got to 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. So you want the novelty of the relationship. So even if you divorced your husband and he went back to his ex-partner, she's going to jump in and out of their relationship. And even if they got married, she's still going to jump in and out of their marriage, and still in search for some sort of person who will bring her excitement until he discards her again. Individuals with histrionic personality disorder struggle with routine and become frustrated with delayed gratification. So she's one of those people who wants to be rich. I always tell you to be mindful of people who want to be rich, that's their only goal is to be rich. They don't talk about all of the work they need to do to become rich. They just want to be rich. And again, that has something to do with their upbringing, their past. They might have been poor, they might have struggled, or they just might be people who think that they will be much more socially accepted if they were rich. But they're not going to sit down and do the work to become rich. They're not going to put in all of that investment in time that usually takes 5, 10, 15, 20 years to get to a place where you are now rich or wealthy. They're not going to do that because it's too routine. It would lead to, frustration because they are not immediately rewarded. Think about the golf course. I was watching a Tiger Woods documentary, and you're standing out there on the golf course, ready to hit the ball, however way the terminology is. When you hit that golf ball, it's almost like your heart and mind immediately turns to hear if anyone is going to clap or say something or say "Go Tiger" or whatever, because you want that delayed gratification. I mean, you want that immediate gratification, and that's why you have a lot of people who run around and say, I'm a golfer, I'm this or whatever. No, you just practice. But the reason why Tiger Woods had a right to kind of look around and see if someone gave him a clap or something like that to fuel him, was because he put in all that effort from the time he was a child. He built the work ethic to get to the place where he was standing before people and as a professional golfer. You going to go get a bag of golfing gear and the clothes. The match is not you as a golfer. You are not a golfer. A golfer gets up and trains as any other athlete. They get up and train early in the morning, 3, 4 o'clock, and they're on the golf course and they're hitting balls, just hitting balls. I remember something about Steph Curry. He was talking about, and I think somebody else too. I think it was maybe Shaq or something like that. But he was talking about he just throws free throws. That is the extent of his training. He throws 500, free throws, back to back. So when you finally see him on the court, you think to himself, "Oh, he's lucky. He ran down the ball or something like that." Again, I don't know the terminology. He ran down the ball and then he threw it in the basket or whatever, and it was successful. He got the goal or whatever. But you don't see the time that he spent on his basketball court at the house throwing free throws. So the person who has a strong work ethic and purpose and aim and or conscientious, they don't crave the novelty. They don't crave the excitement. It should be boring to any one of us to stand there and throw 500 free throws or hit the ball repeatedly, the golf ball. That should be boring to a person like us, because we don't really care about that. We want to bask in your glow as you hit the ball or as you hit the basket or whatever. So we may become bored because we're going to crave the novelty and the excitement and the stimulation that you are generating. But you had to be a person who needed the routine and understood, delayed gratification. That it's like the Olympics people. People who do the Olympics, they train for years, and then for the year prior, just to run something in seconds, to win a gold or to win a bronze or a silver. Individuals with histrionic personality disorder are typically not at risk for suicide, but they might make suicidal gestures and threats to get the attention of others. So their goal is to receive better caregiving, and then they will manipulate to gain nurturance. So um, I've seen many movies like this, especially Lifetime movies, when an ex-partner has come back on the scene, and they look for ways to try to get their ex-partner to come and help them. And so they might slit their wrist, they might fall, they might hit themselves in the eye or something like that. Uh, or they might call in a fake drunken stupor and say, I'm going to kill myself. I just don't know why. I don't feel like I need to go on. And then here it is, your husband goes and runs to be a caregiver. And maybe on some level, that's what they really want. They want the caregiving. Um, but it's almost like you have to parent them. So whatever they didn't get when they were a child, they want you to do now. But like I said, you're going to have to make a decision as a husband that you done all you can in that relationship. It's time to focus on the relationship that you have with your wife. When the baby says, I save you. So when the baby says, I save you, he or she is saying, now save me back. The implication is, I did something for you, now do something for me. I'm really the one who needs help, but I will give you what you need to get what I need. But you cannot truly get what you need from me. I'm leaving soon for better. I'm a baby. I need nurturing and caregiving. Take care of me. I need attention. The I saved you is just the lure. The need to get you alone to show you sexually how much I care about you. I'm bored. I came back because I needed a little excitement. My current relationship does not meet my needs. You do. It is only for a day, an hour, a few months. You can always go back to your wife. So that's what the baby is saying, is that I save you. So in this moment, I need you to save me back. I'm having all these issues. I don't feel well. I feel suicidal. Things are not going great for me. I need attention. Show me attention. Give me the pacifier, which is really sex. Show me a little excitement. We can work this out. Come back to me. You know you don't want to be with that woman. I love you. They might even use that. A lot of times, manipulators don't always use that because they know what that means. But if they get desperate enough, they might actually use I love you. So how to resolve when the baby is saying I save you? The key word in this discussion is bored. The manipulative ex-partner is sexually bored. The woman's current partner may be withholding sex, or sex may feel like a job. The woman may not feel that the current partner's high value in terms of benefit provisioning of economic and financial resources is enough to sustain the relationship sexually. This means that she is apt to return to a relationship that was sexually satisfying, even if she considers the man low value in contrast to her current partner. So she's going to keep the current partner, but she's going to sneak out. She's going to dip in and out with you. You're going to meet in hotels and something like that, because it's going to be an energy driver for her ultimately. I don't think she really cares about the sex so much. I think the fact she's just trying to find something to resolve her boredom. She doesn't have anything that she can hold on to, that she can fight for. So even the relationship that she chose after discarding the husband is not even satisfying for her. Even his financial resources. Now, she's not going to leave him, but something about that relationship is still not. Because whatever you're looking for on the outside is already in you. You just have to have the patience to seek it out and endure the work that is needed to have the thing that you want. The manipulative ex-partner's return to the married man suggests something about his sexual competence and sexual proficiency, skill of performing good sex. Sexual boredom is a researched concept in the psychology literature. Men tend to score higher on the sexual boredom scale. Sexual boredom reflects a vague need for something, some interest or outlet. Well, you almost have to wonder, though. It's hard not to blame the current wife, but you almost have to argue that if he feels like he needs to go back and have sex with the ex-partner, there's something that the current partner is not doing it for him. And maybe the sex with the ex-partner was so there was so much sexual variety that it's hard for him to let that go, right? And that maybe the current partner is interested in sexual, variety, but not certain sexual acts. And when you have a man who needs to be entertained, and sexually entertained, he's going to find it, somewhere else. Women don't always need to be sexually entertained. Sometimes we can be fine with just one position, and then sometimes we will, grow to another position. The problem is, though, men want to do everything all in that one space of time. When the relationship is about growth and relationship building, you shouldn't want to do all the sexual acts in the book one night. Right? It doesn't make any sense, right? You will wear yourself thin. Remember, this is to death do you part. So there will be times when you will have an opportunity to do other types of sexual acts. But you shouldn't have to leave a relationship because she's not giving this one particular sexual act to you, and you're just 2 months into the relationship. You got the whole marriage, right, to explore each other. Boredom in the psychology literature is examined contextually as affective, cognitive, and motoric. Boredom is the prolonged mismatch between what is desired and what is available. Boredom has a strong reliance on personality traits. So what is desired is this: you want a stripper pole, right, in the bedroom. What is available is you only get the missionary position for right now, right? But that's why you need the conversation, or that's why you need conversation as a tool within the prior to the marriage and within a relationship. So you're talking about each other's needs. There's just some acts I'm just not going to do because I still have to walk around with my body. And I don't want you poking me in areas that may create some kind of damage for me, because I still have to use my body. Things have to come in and out of my body. And I don't want to be laid up in some hospital because you poked a place that was kind of damaging for me. And then now I have to live with that. And what happens is you got to live with it. You're sitting up in the hospital, and now he's kind of bothered by it, but then he knows that he still has his sexual needs. So now he's going to go out and go try to find something from somewhere else. That's not right either. Our views about boredom affect our views about sex and sexuality as socially constructed. Our ideas, identity, and expressions about sex and sexuality are no longer private affirmation. So now, it used to be there was just this one child or something like that, this one kid who had sex, and we found out the person was pregnant in high school. Now we know basically everybody's having sex. So the person who is the virgin is the one who's rare, because virgin wasn't a rarity back then. It was the status quo. You got married to have sex. You didn't have sex before marriage. Sure, you had some folks who did things below the social expectation, but it was just kind of like the common status quo thing that you wait until you got married. That's not the case anymore. And so now the person who waits to get married is actually it's such a surprise. It's like you're looking at something so foreign, like the person is an alien or something. As Weeks and Plummer suggest, our views are socially constructed realities formed and sustained by current cultural agreements, norms, and commonplace practices, whose meanings we continually reshape between ourselves in line with prevalent political, cultural, and scientific parameters of social regulation, morality, and ideology. So we stay within a certain limit of things. We are socially constructed to stay within a certain limit. We know not to go across a certain boundary, right? We have parents that, kind of shepherd us and use that shepherd's staff, which we call discipline, and the belt, and then the talking to. to try to, keep us on the right path. And then uh, years ago, when a young girl got pregnant, it was such a stigmatizing thing that she was sent off to a home to have the baby, and then the baby was given up for adoption, and then she returned to the home, or she was sent off to the grandmother's, and the grandmother usually lived on a farm or in a rural area, so no one would ever know that the young girl got pregnant, right? So that's our social construction of reality. Today, however, it's the norm to get it's been the norm to get pregnant early. But I noticed that we are returning to the status quo, that you don't see as many young girls getting pregnant like they used to. They're almost waiting until way out of high school, maybe at 20, 25, between 20 and 25, but they're no longer really getting pregnant like that. It seemed like it was, like we had the baby boomer, the baby boom generation, and there was a baby boom during the time folks were at war and we were having a whole bunch of kids and things like that. And for a time, like in the 90s, maybe 2000s, kids were having kids or babies. But I noticed in 20, somewhere after, maybe after 2010, 15, somewhere around there, you didn't hear that many young pregnancies. It's almost like it's returning, and maybe because people realize just how much responsibility it is, and some people just want to be free. The millennial generation and Generation Z, I think, they're not so apt to just have kids young. They're kind of waiting, right? Plus, they're kind of having problems finding jobs and things like that because they are a new generation. How to resolve? So this means that we attribute negative qualities to a partner with whom we are sexually bored. We attribute positive qualities to a partner with whom we are not sexually bored. So that means with your husband and his ex-partner, she coming back to him for sex, there was something in their relationship where she was never bored. What happened was she left your husband because he didn't have the financial resources. Because if he had the financial resources plus the sexual variety, she probably wouldn't have left. Both suggest that good sex is an important feature of personal competence, meaning that you know how to have good sex. If a current partner is sexually incompetent, we automatically attempt to find the one who is sexually competent. Sexual competence, thus, is relative and based on personal experiences and skill. So you can have somebody, it's nothing worse than a person who looks like they give good sex, or tell you that they give good sex, and they finish too quickly, and then good sex is just not the thrusting. Sexual competence is understanding the body, understanding the mind, making sex to the mind, the foreplay, everything that leads up to actually having sex. And really having conversation actually is much more preferred than the sexual act itself. When you find that you have to drown somebody in sex and you feel like you're not getting enough, then it can't be the sex that is the most important thing that you're missing. You're missing some kind of conversation. You're missing the courting. You're missing the romance. Good sex prevents sexual infidelity. Good sex should not be sluggish. It should not be too predictable, and it should not produce anxiety. So I've heard many women say that he always wants it this way, or he always wants it that way. And really, I just really want to go to bed, So something about the sexual competence between both partners is producing anxiety, because it should be something that is enjoyable for both partners. Concerns over inadequate sexual performance and preoccupations with not giving or not receiving appropriate sex can bring about anxieties about the quality of a loving relationship, a sense of thwarted sexual desire, a sense of failure and subsequent evaluations of sexual boredom, and the association it has with blame or fault. So whenever we feel like we're not having the best sexual experiences, we immediately blame somebody else. But, I have changed my views on sex. I honestly don't think you should give all of your good stuff to a person that you're not married to. All of us have experienced some kind of, sexual encounter, and we always based our belief on good sex, that we did our part, they did they did their part. But I don't think you should give all of your good stuff to a person you're not married to. I think anxiety rises in these sexual relationships because you don't feel secure enough to really enjoy the activity. I think if you were married and are married, I think you would actually be more free to enjoy. But then people look at the marriage and they feel like it's a prison sentence, and so I guess I'm gonna have to do this job with this person or whatever. So then sex becomes a job. But if you look at it another way, you would, if you got married and had sex, well, you can have all the sex you want. But then you have men who say, well, that's the only woman I'm going to ever have sex with. And so then it becomes a job for him. Again, if you look at it like this, you can have all the sex you want with the one person and have different types of sex and have enjoyable encounters with each other. And I feel like there will be more safety and security there. Now, I haven't been married before, but I have been in a shacking situation. And even in a shacking situation, I never quite felt free. And he was a good lover. I was a good lover. But just something about it, I just could not relax. And I often wonder about whether or not, had I just waited and, gotten married, that might have been a better place for me to explore myself with another partner sexually and freely. The manipulative ex-partner who returns to the married man is looking to the man to save her from the sexual boredom she is experiencing with her current partner. The problem with the return is that she assumes he is also bored with his wife and believes he needs sexual variety. However, the fact that the married man did not go looking to the ex-partner for sex is a great sign. Now, if he sleeps with her, though, however, then he must be sexually bored, or he is supporting the assumption of the ex-partner. Resolution for when the baby is saying, I save you, should begin with that fact. The man should say to himself, I didn't go looking for her, she came looking for me. Then the next question should be, what does she want? She doesn't really want me, otherwise we would be together. No, she wants something else. See, if you wait a minute, and a minute could really be interpreted as a day, an hour, or something like that, that she's really after something. But then that means you have to agree that you really want to stay with your wife and you don't want to cheat on your wife, and that your wife is the one you're really supposed to be with. Because if you're having sex with somebody else, ex-partner or not, you're basically suggesting that your wife is not the person you really want to be with, because if you did, you wouldn't do what you're doing with somebody else. If you have sex with the manipulative ex-partner, then you have essentially saved her. This means that when she is sexually bored again, she will come back again. She will come back until the relationship she has with the married man has more life than the one he has with his wife or the one she has with her current partner. However, she will never leave someone she believes has high value unless he finally leaves her. So now you are taking all that energy from the current marriage environment and placing all that energy into the environment of the ex-partner, who is also taking her energy and placing it into her ex-partner, whom she hopes will take her back. So all of this transference of energy, and nothing is really getting accomplished. And so she's never going to leave the one that she believes has high value. Here it is, you're trying to leave the one that you attached value to. So it's just kind of interesting. Another strategy for resolving when the baby says, I save you, is to assess the personality of the manipulative ex-partner. The manipulative ex-partner is anxious. Anxiety falls under the big 5 personality trait, and we went over this, which is neuroticism. This is, we already discussed it. When you score high, you tend to be anxious, vulnerable, emotional. When you score low, you are even-tempered, comfortable, and hardy. So she's not comfortable somewhere in her life. And really, she's not comfortable somewhere in her mind, because she's jumping from thing to thing to thing, back and forth with partners. So there's something going on in her mindset or in her mind that is affecting her relationships outwardly. Anxiety breeds anxiety. The manipulative ex-partner is bringing over anxiety that the married man is already struggling with. The married man's struggle may not be sexual boredom. It might be lack of benefit provisioning of economic and financial resources. In other words, he might have lost his job. The married man might decide to use sex with an ex-partner to resolve that anxiety. So something because everything starts from the internal. So he didn't necessarily have to lose his job. He could be having problems with achieving one of his goals towards his dream. And so something on the inside is pushing him to go outside to find the solution. So when the ex-partner calls, it seems like it's the right time to engage that situation, because he's having trouble internally about something. So anxiety brings anxiety, because then why would he pick up the phone? He could say because of the baby, but why would he then go to the house and spend the night or spend time or flirt? Because there's something going on the inside of him that needs some kind of resolution. And instead of just sitting down with his thoughts in his mind and, resolving the situation, he's now going to acquiesce and give in to the manipulative ex-partner's whims. But then you have to say, then, is the husband a manipulative ex-partner too? Because he knows he's married. He knows the person that is calling him is an ex-partner for a reason. So you have to wonder which one is being more manipulative in the situation. How to resolve when the baby is saying, I'll save you, should begin with assessing anxiety at the individual, interpersonal, and social levels before making a decision to pursue and commit infidelity. An outside force always affects the private beliefs and routines of a couple. The manipulative ex-partner holds contempt for routine, predictability, and standards. So there's a set belief system within the marriage environment that is always going to be tested, but it's something, I think that marriages, two couples should create a vision statement. I think they should create a mission statement for different areas of their lives. And then I think they should create core beliefs. That's something I might think about creating an audio on. I think that would be interesting, because if you set to task to be focused and conscientious about your marriage, I honestly believe you would be less likely to engage in extra pair infidelity, because you guys got a code. You guys got standards. you guys got a vision for where you want. See, we have too much knowledge out there today. No relationship really should be failing. We got so many YouTube videos, we got books, we got Lifetime movies, we got movies, HBO, we got old classics, we got self-help, we got seminars, we got documentaries of people being killed. I watch Snap too. I watch Fatal Attraction. There's too much out here today. The internet is so full with knowledge today, and it's just too much out here today for your relationship to fail. We got books, we got academic books, we got classes. I think everyone should take psychology. I think that is the most interesting major. I'm never going to co-sign, evolution because I'm a Christian, but I think the other aspects of psychology just has so much value that everyone should take, a class in psychology. The married man should also possess his own mate value as having the capacity for contributing and committing to a long-term relationship. He needs to take inventory. So one of those items is he is a stayer. He is conscientious. He's not a quitter. He has a good relationship with his wife. He is not willing to risk termination of the marriage. See, these are affirmations that you need to consider when you are even contemplating cheating on somebody, because it's honestly, if you are willing to dip in and out in your personal life, it's going to affect your professional life. How many times people have done stuff in the dark and it came to the light? So it's much, like I said, you can be much more conscientious in one area and less in another. Like the Tiger Woods documentary that I watched today, he was very conscientious in building skill for professional golf, but he was less conscientious in relationship building with his wife, to the point that he had 14 mistresses. Right? So he had no real self-control or self-discipline in his personal life, but in his professional life, he was a winner. So then if you believe you are a winner, then you need to use that over here in your personal life, that you are a winner in your personal life, that your wife sees you as a winner, you are a winner, you do things that are winner as well. So statement number 3, I'm protecting you. So the baby may suffer from dependent personality disorder. And this is the very last statement. So dependent personality disorder is characterized by submissive, reactive, and clinging behavior. Dependent personality disorder does begin in early adulthood. It is more frequently diagnosed in females than males, and it is usually associated with borderline, avoidant, and histrionic personality disorders. So the DSM defines dependent personality disorder as a pervasive and excessive need to be taken care of that leads to submissive and clinging behavior and fears of separation. So on some level, the woman, the ex-partner feels insecure, and again, that probably goes back to her childhood with an insecure attachment. So she probably didn't have a receptive mother or caregiver. Every time she cried, the mother or parent or caregiver never responded to her cries or waited too long to respond to her cries. So then it creates like a clinging behavior, and then also this fear of separation, which is always connected to anxiety. So here's the criteria. Usually you must fulfill 5 or more of the following. So the difficulty with making everyday decisions without excessive advice, the need for others to assume responsibility for most areas of their life, the difficulty with expressing disagreement with others for fear of loss of support, the difficulty with initiating projects or doing things on their own, excessive need to obtain nurturance from others, the feeling of being uncomfortable when alone, seeking another relationship for a source of care and support, and then also, lastly, being preoccupied with fears of taking care of himself or herself. So maybe with the ex-partner of your husband, she was maybe thrust to the outside world, without any real preparation. She might have had a job in high school or something like that, but it was very triggering, or it could have been very triggering for her to now have to leave the house and have her own apartment and keep a job to take care of herself in that apartment, right? And so if she is the type of person who has never made decisions for herself, if she most people have always assumed responsibility, so when she got out and she found that she was having trouble, she probably went to her father for money, right? Because we usually go to the people who look like our parents in some form or fashion, because we are always wounded in childhood, some kind of wound. She if she's bored, she doesn't have any projects, because when you have something going for yourself, especially a project, a dream that you got going, there's no boredom with that. You may be frustrated because it's not moving as fast as you want, whatever, it's not making money, it's taking too long. Some things require a 1 year preparation, but other things might require 5 or 10 years. Okay, that may be too long for you. If she's dipping in and out of relationships, she and is bored, she feels uncomfortable being alone. She got to have somebody. It doesn't even matter what the body is. She got to have somebody around her. And then she's using your husband for care and support. And there's a fear of her taking care of herself. Individuals with dependent personality disorder or are unable to function adequately without the help of others. Individuals with dependent personality disorder often agree with things they feel are wrong out of fear of losing help and support. Individuals with dependent personality disorder wait for others because they feel that others can handle their responsibility better. Now, in this case, this may be an extreme version of the ex-partner, or may not be the ex-partner altogether, or maybe even your husband. But your husband engaging the ex-partner is almost like a crutch. Like I said, you almost have to wonder who is actually the manipulative ex-partner here, because it looks like there is some sort of codependency between your husband and his ex-partner. That it's like it almost is, her chaos helps him to function, because he was going just fine in his process of going after his dreams of building whatever he's doing. But then all of a sudden he got frustrated, he got anxious. So now it's like he can't really pull at you because you are a stable individual as a wife, right? You tend to be routine-ish, predictable, status quo. So now he's looking for something that might be less routine-ish, unpredictable, not status quo. So then he's going to pull at something that's chaos, because it's likely that he answered the phone because he wanted to answer the phone, and that it had nothing to do with the child that they have together, right? He will often agree. So your husband, if we're looking at the perspective of your husband being actually the manipulative ex-partner, and being the one that is anxiety ridden rather, but when she asks for something, he doesn't want to make her mad too. So then in giving it to her, it's like it's also giving it to him. That in helping her is it's almost like he's helping himself. And then the last one, for others, because they feel that others can handle the responsibility better. So she struggles with financial responsibility, the ex-partner. So then if he's pouring and investing into someone who struggles with financial responsibility, that must mean he also struggles with it. Because why would you pour into an empty well? Why would you continue to pour into something that is not going to improve the condition of that person? So that means he must also be the type of person who can't handle the responsibility. They both are the same. Because they rely on others to handle their problems, individuals with dependent personality disorder often do not learn the skills of independent living, thus perpetuating their dependency. Individuals with dependent personality disorder will submit to what others want, even if demands are unreasonable. Individuals with dependent personality disorder need to maintain important bonds if the relationship is abusive, resulting in distorted perceptions of relationships. So the more your partner, your husband, goes back and forth helping his ex-partner, they are creating a distorted perception of their relationship. It's like every time he goes there to help and also have sex, it's like he believes it's improving his relationship with his ex-partner while he's still married. For her, it looks like he's meeting her needs, unlike the current partner that she's actually trying to rebuild trust with. So it's a distorted perception of relationships. Individuals with dependent personality disorder will see another relationship to get the care and support they need. So while he married his new wife, the ex-partner is already envious of that. So the wife is getting all the care and support that the ex-partner is not getting. Their belief that they are unable to function in the absence of a close relationship motivates these individuals to become quickly and indiscriminately attached to another individual. Social relationships are limited to the people on whom the individual is dependent. So remember that when your husband was with the ex-partner, she had access to his social relationships just as much as he had access to her social relationships. So once that relationship ends, she no longer can call his mother. She no longer can call his sister, his brother, the kids that she used to, his nieces and nephews he used to have at the house. So all of that is gone. And they could have been out of relationship for many years or for many months, but when you already feel alone and you're already the type of person who is emotionally clinging and you have no one at the house with you, but your ex-partner has at least somebody with him, you begin to think in your mind that someone else is being cared for and not you. When the baby says, I'm protecting you, when the baby says, I'm protecting you, he or she is saying that I am a monopolizer of your time. The time you have belongs to me. The implication is this: my job is to take up as much of your time as necessary to ensure that I get the care and support I need. To protect is to guard against attack, invasion, and loss. Therefore, my protection is guarding against you losing your freedom to marriage. The way I protect you is by monopolizing you, your resources, and your time. And time, like duty, and also the word board, are so important. But time is most important because you cannot buy back time. I remember this movie, Justin Timberlake, and I forget the female character, but the movie was In Time or something. And on their wrist, they had their time. So they I forgot how they said it, but clocked out or clocked in or something like that at a certain age, maybe 25. And then they had so many years to walk out their lives, right? And so they would trade time, barter for time, work for time, right? It was a very interesting movie. And I just thought about that the more time you take and give to your ex-partner, the less time you have in your marriage, the less time you give to your marriage. That's a lot of monopolizing your time and your resources and your heart from your wife. You only owe a duty to your wife. So while she's talking about, I'm saving you, I'm protecting you, I thought you needed me, all that kind of good stuff, it is really your wife who needs you. It's because that's the duty that you owe. And so the ex-partner coming in and out of your life is basically stealing time. She's a thief. And the more time you give to her, you are procrastinating the learning process, right? And then you won't have much progress in your marriage, to the point that after a while, that wife is just going to leave. When the baby says, I'm protecting you, so to protect you is to control you exclusively, to take you out of one control, marriage, and bring you into my control, my guidance, my direction, need fulfillment. The more I protect you, the more you are available for me, the more I get you to take responsibility for my life. When I protect you or monopolize you, I take complete control over you. You are my property, my asset. So it's really not about the money. The manipulative ex-partner is looking for long-term care, support, protection, and nurturance. The fact that the married man is married is a loss to the manipulative ex-partner, because those resources go to the wife, meaning that the person who has lower mate value for her, even though she ascribes lower mate value, he's still an asset. He's still considered an asset for her. But when that asset decides to, divest or disinvest from his ex-partner and give all of his resources to his wife, his new partner, she is experiencing loss of assets. And then she's also experiencing loss of access to him. But the manipulative ex-partner has a distorted view. Because the married man is married, the manipulative ex-partner believes that he has suffered loss as a result of marriage. So some people think that marriage is a prison of some sort. They think that they are losing out just because they are married. And so she assumes that because he got married and they never got married together, that he must be experiencing some loss. So it's now time for her to save him or protect him from that. The implication is that she believes he has settled with his wife. He is not getting what he rightfully deserves as a man. Only the manipulative ex-partner can give him what he needs. So then that becomes her goal too. But that's only to keep him on the hook. And so usually we think a person is not getting what they need in terms of sex. So, okay, I'm going to give him all the sex. I'm going to give him everything that we had when we were in a relationship. The manipulative ex-partner offers an exclusive privilege to her, as if she is the prize, the reward if the married man divorces his wife. She assumes that he just can't be happy in marriage. And that's really, she is projecting, because she's not happy in her life. Therefore, the manipulative ex-partner's strategy is one of aggression. To embrace aggression is to become masculine based upon social standards and normative beliefs. So now she's changing her gender status in a sense, right? That she was more feminine even in her manipulation, but now that she is after him to leave his wife, she's going to become more masculine, and masculine tends to be associated with aggression. or aggression tends to be associated with masculine. Normative beliefs are those that are self-regulating beliefs about the appropriateness of social behavior. So, normative beliefs are basically the status quo beliefs. Aggression is based upon normative beliefs. It is used to earn and sustain social prestige and respect. It is central in certain cultures. So there is a normal level of aggression that is needed to compete, right? And people who compete tend to get what they want. So that's more along the lines of status quo. When it comes to certain types of professions, you got to have some kind of aggression if you're going to be an athlete, a professional athlete, and gain the title or gain the award, gain the money or whatever. Aggression is typically associated with men, where boys are rewarded early for having a reputation of toughness. It is central to male identity. So when it gets too far off the aggression path, it goes into criminal behavior. Aggression is socially learned. Bandura's social learning theory emphasizes modeling, such as imitation or observational learning, as being part of the beginning stages of development. Today, Bandura's theory is referred to as a social cognitive rather than social learning approach, in which children become selective in what they imitate. So usually, if aggression is socially learned, that means you see it somewhere. You may see it in your parent, usually a father, if the father is in the home, or a brother who is aggressive towards you, right? But you can choose your aggression. You can choose how you apply and use your aggression. Children will develop personal standards for behavior and a sense of self-efficacy, the belief that their own abilities and characteristics will help them succeed. They acquire attitudes and values about how they will control their own learning. So if you see a person too aggressive and they keep crossing the line, that's by choice, because they were exposed to some kind of discipline about their aggression. The parent might have said, okay, keep going with it, but the coach at the school might have said, okay, you're too aggressive, hold back, or sit this one out. But if they refused to be disciplined, and you see them highly aggressive today, then they are doing that by choice. They chose to control their learning about aggression. But children can also choose the negative aspect of self-efficacy, adopting the belief that getting what they want, regardless of consequence, will help them to succeed. So that's what I mean by choosing, aggression to get what it is that you want to get. It is at the emotional and social development in infancy and toddlerhood where emotional self-regulation begins. Emotional self-regulation is a strategy for adjusting emotional states to accomplish goals. Emotional self-regulation requires voluntary, effortful management of emotions. Emotional self-regulation begins in the first 2 years, leading to the development of autonomy and mastery of cognitive and social skills. So we had the storming of the Capitol on January 6, 2021 by white nationalists, white supremacists, Trump supporters. And they all went crazy. They were beating up on police. They had bombs. They stormed inside the Capitol and the Senate, and I think just the Senate chambers. They were looking for the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. They wanted to hang Mike Pence. And they actually built like a hanging foundation with a noose. And when you see something, and these were older people, these were not younger people, these were older people. How is it that older people get to that type of thinking? And they're claiming that it was Trump who wanted them to come there and storm the Capitol and everything. And it was preceded by actually a little rally that he was pushing along with his son and then Rudy Giuliani and then a congressman or something. But when you see them at that level, when you see them at that state of mind, that hints at their lack of emotional self-regulation. And since Burke is suggesting that emotional self-regulation begins the first 2 years leading to the development of autonomy, that should tell you something, that they have been pouting for years, because lack of emotional self-regulation is basically pouting. The child is laying out on the floor crying and kicking and screaming and pouting until you pick it up, until you give in to the child, and then the child has his own way, has his or her own way. Well, the ex-partner is like this with your husband. She's pouting. She's laying out on the floor, crying, kicking, screaming, help me. But she's turning it on to him as if she's saving him, or she's protecting him, or she's helping him. But if you see people storming, there is something that did not get resolved when they were younger. And it's something that I think I might want to study later, because it's just very interesting that these are not even people in their 20s. These are people in, from what I can perceive, these are people in their 40s and 50s and 60s, and said, what are you doing out there? There was one person even on the, what's his name? What was it? He went on camera or something and said, yeah, I should be at work. I'm supposed to be at work today. Okay, so why aren't you at work? So now he's on camera being part of this whole insurrection, storming the gate, Capitol type thing, when he was supposed to be at work. Why wasn't he actually at work? I got to think about this a little bit more. Infants read the emotional cues of their parents. A parent who responds sympathetically to an infant's cry will result in an infant who is less fussy, easier to soothe, and more interested in exploration. In contrast, parents who respond impatiently will find a baby agitated, resulting in an anxious child. So you often see this. So when they could not get their way, they decided to storm, hit. 4 people died as a result of this. I think 5 really, but I just remember the number being 4. Therefore, the family is training ground for aggression. Gender plays an important role. Girls use indirect relational tactics to disrupt intimate bonds. A girl might form a club to keep outsiders out. Girls are more verbally and relationally aggressive. Boys inflict harm in a multitude of ways through physical aggression. So the girls are like the mean girls, right? Then the boys are like the maybe aggressive boys who tend to be part of a team, usually football. So how to resolve when the baby says I'm protecting you? To resolve when the baby says I'm protecting you is to understand that the baby is reacting the same way towards the married man as its mother reacted towards it. Remember that the baby reads the parent's emotional cues, reactions. If the parent waits too long to intervene in resolving the baby's crying, the baby will become extremely agitated. So to resolve when the baby says I'm protecting you is to understand the goals of the manipulative ex-partner. Goal number 1, to get the married man to evict the wife out of the marriage. Goal number 2, to get the married man to change positions, roles from masculine to feminine. Because then remember, if you're using aggression and the ex-partner is no longer walking in her femininity, she's now walking in her masculinity. Then if she's walking in her masculinity and she gets her ex-partner to leave his wife, then he begins to walk in his femininity. So eviction is a process And I'm really talking about emotional eviction. It takes time to get someone out of your house. You have to go through the courts to evict someone. In the case of the manipulative ex-partner, eviction simply means this: give all your resources and benefit provisioning to me and not to the wife. This moves the married man's protection of the wife to the ex-partner. So changing positions: mothers nurture, mothers guide, mothers offer care and support, fathers protect, fathers provide. So when they change positions and he becomes feminine and she becomes masculine, uh, she's going to do all of the protecting and providing. We're walking in sort of like a fatherly role, but he's still going to have to give up his resources, right, in order for her to do that. Because once she gets him out of that situation, she's not going to let him go, even if she marries someone else. For the manipulative ex-partner to say, I'm protecting you, to the married man is to suggest that she is the provider. She is the protector. She is the man. The married man must accept the protection. The ex-partner will use aggression to ensure that the married man accepts the protection. Aggression might be interpreted as seduction. To resolve when the baby says, I'm protecting you, is to maintain your status as a married man. When the manipulative ex-partner tries to protect the married man, she is intervening by coming in between the married man and his wife, requesting help in perpetuity in the forms of money and other resources, passive income, basically. So she's trying to operate almost like a business. So she's trying to create a hook in your husband, so that she can get help the rest of her life, basically. Calling and accusing the married man of not being there for me, stalking the married man, breaking up the marriage and saying, I only have your best interest in mind. It depends on, I'm not quite sure I would put up with an ex-partner doing this, especially if they have a child or not, especially ex-wives. There's only so much I can take. I have said in previous audios, you can't leave everybody, but I just don't think that your husband should be taking care of his ex-wife or his ex-partner. I just don't think that is right. So something, has to happen in that situation. The only way that a married man can resolve when the baby says, I'm protecting you, is to stop protecting the baby. Don't nurture or give advice to the baby. Don't give time to the baby. Don't call the baby. Don't visit the baby. Don't make room in your heart for the baby. Don't protect or provide for the baby emotionally, psychologically, financially, and spiritually. Now, again, I'm not talking about a physical baby. I'm talking about the woman as the baby, because she's really stuck somewhere in the crib. She's a baby in a crib. She just so happened to be an adult in a crib. The baby lacks emotional self-regulation. There's nothing that the married man can do to resolve an issue that the baby should have learned during the first 2 years of life. The only baby that needs provision, care, consideration, nurturance, and protection is the rightful baby, the wife. Protect the wife. So this is my last appeal to the wife, long-term baby. And it's basically the rationale for why you cannot compete with the baby. And this is also the last section. So your husband's decision. If your husband has decided to save and protect and provide for the manipulative ex-partner through whatever means necessary to ensure that their bond is maintained, then you cannot compete with the baby. That baby, the manipulative ex-partner, has his heart, his mind, his body, and his soul. Until he decides to evict the baby, there is nothing you can do but plan your own exit. And planning your own exit doesn't necessarily mean you packing a bag the very same day. Planning your exit could just letting it all, see what it works out to be. See what the husband does. You appeal to him, right, to make a decision, and you see how he carries it out. Because everybody it's hard for me to say this, but everybody needs a process. Just because you can finish something out and don't have anything to do with an ex-partner and it doesn't take too much time for you, doesn't mean that that applies to everybody. So he eventually he's going to have to make a decision, because there's a threat to your own life and the a continuity of your relationship as a marital partner. So he's going to have to make some kind of decision, but it shouldn't take years for him to make a decision about an ex-partner. Because if he wanted to be with the ex-partner, he should have just been with the ex-partner and not married you. All right, so we have reached the conclusion of this lecture, and this part is essentially when it's time to leave. Everyone determines when it's time to leave their romantic relationships. Everyone has a process. You cannot get in the middle of their process, but there does come a time when you have to make a decision to leave, because threats to your marital relationship or long-term partnership might affect your very life, your very sanity. So this brief conclusion is about when it's time to leave. All right, so it's important to assess the time. As a wife or long-term partner, you will reach a point in the relationship where it will be time to leave. Three-party romantic relationships are extremely dangerous. It doesn't matter if you have legal rights to your husband if his manipulative ex-partner is willing to do anything to keep him. Your legal rights in the marriage are affirmed in the courts. However, for now, you may need to leave the toxic environment to ensure safety for yourself and others. So plan your exit. Therefore, planning your exit will require you to do the following. Plan 1, assess your current financial status. If you do not have a job, get a job and then begin saving. Plan number 2, assess your state's provision on marital assets. Do you live in a community property state? Research the marriage laws in your state. Plan number 3, protect your own assets. So if you are writing a book, make sure to copyright and register assets. Do not create while in the marriage if you are in a community property state. Half the assets might go to him, and by default, the mistress. Plan number 4, move out the house for safety reasons. When a man emotionally evicts you, it is likely he will move the mistress into the house. You do not want to engage with the manipulative ex-partner for fear of violence and retaliation, because people get very desperate. They got to get or have whatever it is that they're going to get and have. And if they have to kill you to do it, they will do it. Plan number 5, do not engage your husband to seek clarity. He has already made up his mind. It becomes dangerous at this point to try and change his mind. Just pray for him privately. Plan number 6, seek a divorce if it is economically and psychologically feasible. Once a partner has evicted you, life becomes more dangerous because the manipulative ex-partner feels that what you have and who you have belongs to her. This means that she believes the wife is the culprit, the thief, not her. Plan number 7, let the relationship die. Even if you and your husband are destined to get back together, you must let the current relationship die to embrace a new one later. It is hard to rebuild on rubble. All right, so hopefully you were able to gain insight from this video discussion. Please like, subscribe, and visit. So please like the video, hit the notification bell for more discussions. I am re-uploading all of my audios, so I needed to make some changes to them. You can visit my website for more content at reginayfavors.com. If you want to send me an email, you can send an email reginayfavors@yahoo.com. Please also purchase the book. It's going to come out in spring 2021, so I had to make changes to my book to update it, and I also updated the title. So the original title was Bait, Hook, and Switch, Confessions of a Rebound Girl, and I have updated the title to Toxic Encounters, Why People Pursue Rebound Relationships. So right now I'm still basically editing it, and I want to make it available in spring 2021. So thank you very much for visiting my channel, and I am Regina Y. Favors. Have a great day.